And Mayor Pro Tem Deidre Nguyen.
Here.
And Mayor Jones is absent tonight.
Maria, would you like to lead us into the invocations?
Sure.
And Councilmember Kim Nguyen, can you lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance?
If everybody could please stand and prepare yourselves according to your faith. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here this evening and for the sense of high purpose that we share. As we consider the important items before us, we ask that you would guide us and give us wisdom to make the best decisions for our beloved city and fellow citizens. Amen.
Place your right hand over your heart, face the flag, and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go into the spotlight, I would like, there's an item 1A for the spotlight for the Strawberry Festival. Maria, can you do the spotlight?
I believe we're going to take one item out of order.
Oh, yes, sorry,
Terry,
I apologize. We would
so-
like to pull 3As, if it's okay with my colleagues, to pull item 3A from the consent item.
Second.
Item 3A is the adoption of a proclamation recognizing Mark Mahoney and Sue Jeanette Tallman for being named 2022 Strawberry Ball King and Queen Senior Volunteer in Man and Woman of the Year. We had a motion and a second. Councilmember Bowie, how do you vote? Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay, and with that, I think we're going to begin the community spotlight. So this evening, the Garden Grove City Council is proud to recognize a devoted group of individuals who have played significant roles in successfully bringing back the Garden Grove Strawberry Festival after 2 years due to our COVID-19 pandemic. Would President Patrick Catlin please come forward, and as well as all of the rest of the members of the Strawberry Festival Association. If you could all come forward, we'll have you all stand up here. And I just wanted to share that the Garden Grove Strawberry Festival Association is a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising funds for local organizations that provide service for children, youth, and seniors. For 62 years, community leaders have volunteered hundreds of hours planning and coordinating the Garden Grove Strawberry Festival to give back to the community. This year's theme was celebrating essential workers, and an estimated 300,000 people attended the Strawberry Festival this year. So I think everybody was excited to get back out. And the festival extended over a 4-day period with many nonprofit groups benefiting from the sales of food and game booths. The Strawberry Festival also held their special Kids Day when the festival was open a day early. When the festival was open a day early to kids with special needs for free entertainment, food, and rides. The Strawberry Festival Association has raised over $7 million for local charities since its formation in 1958 and pledges to donate about $100,000 to the Garden Grove community each year. At this time, the mayor and city council would like to present the Garden Grove Strawberry Festival Association with a gift in appreciation and recognition of their tireless efforts in organizing the 2022 Garden Grove Strawberry Festival. Huge thanks to all of you.
Yeah, come on in here. Easier. Yeah, tall guy. Yeah, she might come back. Yeah.
Suha, you might want to come back up here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you should.
I think.
You're going to
get
be
lost in there.
swallowed up in there.
There's no stool down there too, huh?
There is one right here.
Yeah, that's why you need to come back.
Come on, yeah, there you go.
I feel so cold.
Not even in the.
The other angle let me see where I was. I was trying to get
I
right.
know, I don't know if we're in there.
There you go.
The tall guys are blocking Ken.
1, 2, 3. And then I'm gonna take another one on this one.
You're taller than me now too, huh?
Hope you're okay now. Great, thank you.
I'm gonna get a.
Congratulations.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you for your help.
Oh. Patrick, would you like to say a few words or? Would you like to say a few words right here? No? Speech.
Well, we obviously had a very successful festival this year, and I wanted to also thank the city for all your help, especially Janet. She was very helpful to us in our Garden Grove Police Department, and thank you very much.
We'll be back next year again, right? Okay.
All right, next, the Garden Grove City Council is proud to recognize two very special individuals who have enhanced the Garden Grove community with their spirit of service. So Mark Mahoney couldn't be here tonight, but would Sue Jeanette Talman please come forward? If you could just come forward and stand up in front here. We'd just like to honor you. Sue is the 2022 Garden Grove Strawberry Ball Queen and Senior Volunteer Woman of the Year. So we're very excited to celebrate you tonight, Sue. And every year, the city's H. Lewis Lake Senior Center hosts the Strawberry Ball to honor the new Strawberry Ball King and Queen and recognize them for their dedication to volunteerism with local organizations. It's the city's privilege to honor these two exceptional individuals. And I'm going to start with Mark Mahoney. He's not here tonight, but then we're going to get to you, Sue, okay? So Mark was born in Orange, California, and has been a resident of Garden Grove for many years. After retiring as an accountant, he has dedicated his time to volunteer and help the Garden Grove community. Mark has been a member of the Garden Grove Elks Lodge for 30 years, and he held a position as Exalted Ruler from 2017 to 2018. He's also been a member of the Garden Grove Strawberry Festival Association for 20 years and held a position as president in 2013. So now, Sue, we're going to talk about you. Okay, Sue is originally from Stewart County, Tennessee, and she has been a resident of Garden Grove for 54 years. She's worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, as a file clerk, and the city of Anaheim at the Anaheim Convention Center. Sue spends her free time volunteering and providing service to her community. She's been an active volunteer with the Garden Grove Moose Lodge, number 620, the Fleet Reserve Association, and the H. Lewis Lake Senior Center. At this time, the mayor and city council would like to present a proclamation to you, Sue, for your selection as the 2022 Garden Grove Strawberry Ball Queen and Senior Volunteer Woman of the Year. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Oh.
Send it to George. Send every picture to George.
So I want to say a few words. Thank you so much for everything. Yeah, I enjoy coming to the center and helping and volunteering, and because Jim, ever so often from the kitchen, you be sure you're going to help in the kitchen. You know, we're going to be opening up in a couple of months, I think. You know, August, I guess, maybe somewhere along about that. But anyway, yeah, I'll be in there helping in the kitchen. So thank you very much.
Now we're moving on to the oral communications. I have few I would like to invite Chief Dore, OCFA Division Chief Roberts, and Assistant City Manager Maria Stipe, to give us a little update about 4th of July.
Okay, this is throwing me off a little bit, Miss Mayor Pro Tem, members of council.
Surprise.
So we had our July 4th, and our statistics are as follows. So our officers started with a briefing that began at 5 p.m. that day. Our enforcement began at 6 p.m. and we ended at 1 a.m. Our July 4 totals, I'm gonna refer to 2022 into 2021 to see where we're at. So our dispatch firework calls for 2022 was at 166. In 2021, it was at 95. The discrepancy is based more off procedural than anything. So in 2021, when we did not have an address or somewhere to locate the fireworks, we did a general broadcast to our officers. But we did not add that in as a call ticket. So it was not added in because then we would just be trailing intersections or streets. We had no idea where they were at. So this year we made the decision to make call tickets and focus on that. So dispatch for other firework calls, it could be related to any other, it could be a domestic violence, could be anything, was 10 for 2022 and 8 for 2021. So we had to increase it to. Of the officer self-initiated calls, that's officers initiating the firework calls themselves. We had 63 in 2022 and 64 in 2021, so really no change. Our administrative citations from July 1st to July 5th. The number of administrative citations issued in 2022 was at 64. In 2021 was 77. The citations from citizen calls in 2022 was at 10 and 9 in 2021. The citations for officers self-initiating them was at 54 in 2022 and 68 in 2021. Last but not least, the number of Garden Grove residents that were cited in 2022, we had 34. In 2021, it was 47. The non-Garden Grove residents that were cited stayed the same, 30 in 2022 and 30 in 2021. Other than that, we did not have any other major incidents that night, and that completes my portion of it.
Thank you, Chief Dure. Good evening, council, city staff, and the viewing audience. So for the OCFA, if I could sum up the 4th in one word for the city of Garden Grove, it would be pretty much average. Looking at the data across the 2 years, in 2021, we had 71 calls for service. In 2022, we had 55. This year, we had total fires were 13. Now that is dumpster fires, vegetation fires, ornamental vegetation fires. We did have 2 confirmed structure fires. One was a garage fire that was not fireworks related, and the other was a roof fire that we can confirm was fireworks related. Back in 2021, we had 10 fire calls, so our fire calls were up a little bit, and we could only account for 3 of those being fireworks related. So this year we saw an uptick of about 5. And that concludes my portion of the report. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just going to round it off with a brief animal care activity update. So in total, there were 3 calls for service for loose dogs, which is consistent with the relatively light activity we've experienced on the past holidays. 2 of the dogs were temporarily impounded at the Municipal Service Center, with the first dog reunited with its owner on July 6th. The second dog was subsequently transported to the Humane Society since it lacked identification. The third dog is presumed to be reunited with its owner since we were not able to find it when we reported to the location where it was reported, but we received no further reports or indication that it was still on the loose. So we believe it's been recovered. And that concludes the July 4th Animal Care Update. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Doré. Thank you, Chief Robert, and thank you, Maria. So next, I would like to call for Anna Parker.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This is my 3rd time here talking about the same issue. We have this house in the family since 1955. We knew the neighbors, they grew up together, go hang out with him all the time. He died at 95. He was very kind. He worked at Donald Douglas, an engineer, very nice. But our property line, look, it's crooked. So thanks to an easement and we realizing that there was nothing to be crooked, and if you needed 20 feet from the street. So we have the plants at the front, the ivy since 1955. Until he passed away, they started constructing. When I saw how they started it, I saw that there was something wrong. I tried to talk to the neighbors, and I would come very gently, hey, could you please call me so we can discuss about what's going on? Oh, my wife's going to call you. A second time, oh, my wife is going to call you. Until I came to the city and I said, hey, I need to contact this because there's not enough easement for this. And then the city said, oh, it's approved, we cannot do anything, it's a civil matter. How am I gonna find this? Then I have to find these people. So it took me forever to find their names, their contact. I sent them cease and desist letters and orders. And they say, oh, you know how much you paid for the city? Is money the problem? How much was it? I'll pay for it. I'll work as much as I need. I'll negotiate that, just stop it because this is not right. There is something very wrong going on. And then finally, the city told me, we need a wall because I had no privacy. I have 1 foot here. So they would be, this is my office. They would be walking right by me at all times, no matter what time. And here you have 7 days a week. You can work 7 days a week. My husband is a plumber. He works until 2 o'clock in the morning. Then 7 days a week, people are knocking right by our window. So my husband is a plumber. I say I'm a plumber's assistant, that I go to work with him. So I know every day there's a different worker. So I would come and say, hey, could you please knock at another part of the house so we can get some sleep? And the workers were very nice and considerate, and they would do that. Until one day I left, the workers were there knocking. I knew another worker was going to come on the next day. So I put a note on the door. Hey, my husband works until 2 o'clock in the morning. Can you try to not work until 12? Blah, blah, blah. Well, she calls the police on me. But I had to call the police. The police said, as the city said, it's a civil matter. You have to go to court. They called the police on me. Okay, so I am working with the attorney, with the surveyor, because who is the surveyor that wants to work on this? Then I come to the city, hey, how do we know where our property line is? The city says, we don't do it. You have to pay for a private survey. Okay, how am I going to find a private survey? Okay, how am I going to find an attorney that wants to work with this? So the surveyor came, he put the things on the ground. they came and they took it out and they put another survey mark on the on there. How can you do that kind of thing?
Can you wrap it up, please?
Sorry. Okay, then we had trees, they took it out. And then comes the city guy, and the city guy says, oh, don't worry about it. It's not a civil matter. It's the city that runs it. And then he tells me, oh, don't worry, because there's nothing you can do. The city's not going to do anything because we paid a lot of money. We know people there. It took us over a year to get it approved. So there's nothing you can do. And then the guy makes a thing saying that I am the one that threatens. I leave notes. I send cease and desist letters. I have their number. I send them messages, and they make this. So I am being harassed. And and then now I have 1 foot. They put a thing here that I cannot get to my own backyard because they won't let me pass. They harass us. She comes and says, and stands there and says, you're not going to get through. So please stop this. And you are my district. Please, I invite you, come to my house. Come, I'll take you for an afternoon tea, and I'll show you. There are 2 front doors right in my bed. This is becoming an alley. 6 people are going to be walking here. So we need to redo this. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Maureen Blackman?
Good evening, council, staff. So I'm looking at my cue card and it says, you state your name. No, I'm sorry. Had to say that. Anyway, I'm Maureen Blackman. I want to talk about the Navigation Center. I'm president of the Garden Grove Neighborhood Association and a Neighborhood Improvement and Conservation Commissioner. I first saw tents in the homeless encampments on the riverbed in 2018. And I've been searching for answers ever since. The Neighborhood Association has hosted 5 town halls we call Meet on Main to understand the homeless issues and hosted outreach programs, mental health experts, and with the Garden Grove Police Department. We meet with SRT routinely for updates. We've done cleanups. I actually work a few doors down from the Huntington Beach Navigational Center and have followed its progress since its inception. I drive the corner of Beach and Garden Grove Boulevard between 4 and 2 times a day, once on my way to work, back, and if I go to the Pilates studio, that makes it 6. I see underpasses, cul-de-sacs, and tiny sections of land the homeless occupy, knowing full well where the lines of jurisdiction begin and end. I see piles of trash, encampments, aggressive panhandling, drug use, mental health patients, and defiance. I want the answer to be a navigational center. I want to believe that these folks need a place just to put their belongings and rest their weary heads, where they'll get rides to Social Security offices and doctor's appointments, and where they can get themselves together and the system can find them some supportive housing so they are back at life. I know the cities must do this, and I understand the cost of housing them versus keeping them on the street, so it makes no sense not to house them. I'm just having a very hard time believing the majority of people I see on the streets will take the help. I can't reconcile the images I see with my own eyes and the individuals I hear about who will be helped. I asked for outcomes, but neither providers were able to give us those information. I've never really seen an actual person who's been through the system and survived. I'd like to see those real stories, not just a provider telling me that they do exist. I'm a yes on the navigational site because I have hope that there will be some help, but I would like to see our streets cleaned up.
Thank you. Vola Lambert?
I'm Verla Lambert. I'm from Marble Place here in Garden Grove. And this is, of course, located between the Garden Grove Hospital and the 22 freeway in that little triangle there in that community called the Rock Pile. I happen to be on Marble Place. I'm here to ask about the property on Flint where the lady had passed away back in January. And this property had been overgrown and I hate to use the word hoarders residence. And nothing has really been done. And I drove by this evening, and it has been entered since this lady has passed away and whatnot. But the contamination for the rest of the neighborhood is still there. And there's a lot of us that are seniors in that neighborhood, like me. And we would like to see this cleaned up. And, you know, this contamination should just spread like wildfire when it gets started, like our COVID did. And I do want to see that cleaned up, and it's been just too long to be there. And that's just not right. Something has to be done. If we're waiting on more people to complain or something, let me know. I can get everybody to come up in the community. But please take a look at this again and get this cleaned up before it spreads to the rest of the community. And I will take part of the responsibility for it being there, because I've lived in that house since 1958, in my house. And there's no reason why I couldn't have been a little bit more diligent of this taking place. And so that's why I'm here tonight. I feel responsible for part of that going on for so long. But we have a city council. You've been voted in. And some of you, I recognize that I've been with you before. And so we have to just keep this cleaned up so that we can get it done. So I'd like to see that done. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our oral communications. So we're going to move on to other legislative bodies' business. Pass it on to successor agency.
Member or Vice Chair Bowie, would you like to begin the successor agency meeting? Do you mind if I call roll first? Okay. Member Brightigam?
Here.
Member O'Neill?
Here.
Member Deidre Wen?
Here.
Member Klopfenstein?
Here.
Member Kim Wen?
Here.
And Vice Chair Bowie? And Chair Jones is absent tonight.
Approval? Second.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay, moving on to item 3A, item of consideration.
Okay. Item 3A is approval to proceed with disposition of property located at 12311 Thackeray Drive. And Mr. Guerrero is here to give the report.
Good evening, Vice Chair and successor agency members. Staff is requesting authorization to move forward with the disposition process for 12311 Thackeray Drive for fair market value. The property is number 55 on the approved long-range property management plan. The property is subject to an exclusive negotiation agreement for site development. The property was recently appraised at the fair market value of $460,000. It is recommended that the successor agency authorize the executive director to proceed with the disposition process. This concludes staff's report, and staff is available for any questions.
Any question, member? Hearing none, okay.
We have motion. Do we have second? Stop.
It's okay. We haven't been doing this for a while now. So, Madam Clerk, please go for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right. Any matter from successor agency members? Hearing none, I now move back to the City Council. Mayor Pro Tem Tuan.
That would be, we move on to next sanitary district.
Yep.
That would be John.
Thank you very much. We will go to the special meeting of the Garden Grove Sanitary District. If you could call roll, please.
Member Bridegan?
Here.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Klopfenstein?
Here.
Member Kim Nguyen?
Here.
Vice President Deidre Nguyen? And President O'Neill?
Here. Thank you.
And Member Jones is absent.
Thank you very much. We've already heard oral communications simultaneous with council. We have one item of consent. This is approval of a quitclaim for a sewer easement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right, thank you. Any matters from the board? No? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn until the next regular sanitary district meeting Tuesday, July 26th. Back to council.
Thank you, John. Continue with consent items. We already pulled 3A.
Just really quick, we canceled that meeting, so
Oh, yeah, I was going to say,
Sure.
that's why I hesitated. So it'll be at the next
No,
regular.
actually, it's not a typo. It's just for clarification, it's written as scheduled for Tuesday, because we have to
Oh.
do a cancellation notice.
It'd be a cancellation notice before,
Right.
72 hours
In
before.
advance.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's just a little procedural
So don't
thing.
show up on the 26th. I know people are vacationing in summertime, so we usually go dark one meeting a year, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, for consent items, we already pulled 3As. Now we have 3B through 3D. Any,
Balance.
second.
call the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Now we're on to the item for considerations. Item 5A.
We're going to start with item 4A, which is a public hearing
4A,
item.
public hearing. I jump ahead of myself.
This is where it's going to get challenging. So item 4A is approval of the 2022 Drinking Water Public Health Goal Report. And Mr. Murray is about to give the report.
Excuse my tardiness. Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974 protects the public by ensuring water agencies provide clean, safe drinking water. One of the provisions of the act calls for water agencies to communicate levels of harmful contaminants in their water. The city does this annually, and the results are published in a water quality report, which is available on the city's website. Additionally, the state requires a separate report to discuss water contaminants that exceed water quality goals set by the state. This is the Drinking Water Public Health Goal Report before council tonight. The report is designed to alert water agencies to possible problems developing within their water system. Our report does identify the presence of some harmful contaminants, but their levels are very low. Garden Grove Water is in full compliance with all standards. The harmful contaminants include arsenic, pyrochlorate, which is the PFOS and PFOA that we have just talked about before, and uranium, which is naturally occurring except for the PFOS chemicals. That's not. The other contaminants that are byproducts of a disinfection process. It is important for these contaminants to be identified and monitored, as any increase in them may trigger the need for the city to treat the water to remove them. It should be noted that the cost to treat these contaminants is very expensive, which is why we're not already doing that, except for in the case of the PFOS. By law, the Drinking Water Public Health Goal Report must be adopted by council, and to adopt a plan, council must first conduct a public hearing and then approve the report as it is submitted.
This includes or concludes staff's report, and thank you, and I'm available should you have any questions.
Any question before we open the public hearing, my colleagues?
I do have some questions. Is it better to do it now, or do we need to open the public hearing first? Does it matter?
Maybe just open the public hearing,
Okay,
then we
and
have
I'll ask
questions.
them after?
Okay. Let's open the public hearings. Anyone would like to address? Please come to the podium. No. Madam Clerk, do we have any protests, any update?
No, there's nothing.
Okay, colleagues?
Right, back to question.
Sorry. Do we have to close the public hearing? Yes, we officially closed the public hearing. Thank you.
In May, I had the opportunity to tour the PFAS treatment area at West Haven Park. We have a well system there at West Haven Park. And it was wonderful to be able to see the hard work and diligent effort that went into protecting our water. I know we have other well sites around the city of Garden Grove and other PFAS treatment facilities being worked on at this time. So I was just wondering if Director Murray, if you could give us an update on that.
Okay. It's a good question. You saw well 21
Yes.
at West Haven. That's been in operation since like November of last year. Well 29 will be done in about 3 weeks. You've hold me to 4. We might look at having some sort of a visit for you guys at that time. Of course, the previous one, we weren't able to get you out there to really visit it because of everything going on with COVID. So maybe this one, next one will do something. Well 30, that we're going to start working on that site next week. The final 2 wells are at the Lamson Reservoir, and those should be starting up about the end of the year. So we're pretty much on schedule that we'd all talked about back when we were going through the PFAS issue. That's all I got.
Thank you. No, that's helpful. And just for clarification, the first PFAS treatment is at the well that's in District 5, and so I just wanted an opportunity to see that, as I had residents that frequent that area, walking their dogs and so forth, wondering what those were. And I know it's been highlighted and mentioned in the City Works leaflet that goes into the water bill, so if people want more information on it, they can find that there. I know the Orange County Water District has gotten a lot of plugs and highlighted for their work, but I think it's important to also say thank you to our water department and Director Murray and all the hard work that our team here in Garden Grove has done to make that happen and to protect our water. So thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Nguyen.
Similarly to a few years ago when I pulled the pavement improvement plan, I'd like to make note that in this report, it says that it would cost anywhere between 10.7, I think, to anywhere $38 million in order to completely eliminate these chemicals or
All 3 of them, yeah.
yeah. And so I want us to, as the budget cycle, I think it's going to be a new one next year, right? Because we just did our biennial. So when we are going through that, I would really like for staff to look into how do we start dedicating monies to focus on this. There are several cities around us that, talk about how wonderful their water is, and it's top-notch drinkable water straight from the tap, and I would never drink Garden Grove tap water. So this has definitely been something that's important to me. I've taken the time to visit all of our sites, different sites from Public Works, to kind of learn and gather more information for myself. And so this report was very timely, and I would like to see monies dedicated to improving the quality of our water. So just a note for next year.
Colleagues?
Madam Vice Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, George.
Mayor Pro Tem, I should say. I agree. We probably should look at doing this long range as part of a long range plan. Although I do drink the water from the tap, used to drink it out of a hose. I think we were talking about that as kids. I don't have a problem with it. It's tastes good. I think it's but we're well within the limits established by law. But I do concur with Councilman Nguyen's sentiments. We should start looking to clarify this a little bit better long term, if need be. But we should be taking those initial steps at least to look at getting rid of those chemicals. So with that, I do want to say kudos to staff. I think we're one of the first cities in Orange County to get those PFAS filters on our wells. So I'm, really grateful for that. So, just with that alone, our water is better than most other cities in this county. So anyway.
I'll make a quick comment just to tell you, I love Garden Grove water. I think it's pretty good. I've been drinking out of the hose for 57 years probably. But my neighbor, Chris Veras, was an employee of Garden Grove for over 40 years and worked in the water department. And I really value all the work that our water department does here in Garden Grove. It's outstanding, the work they do with the resources they have and the tools they have. So thank you for keeping everything going, because we need more.
I'd like to make the motion, but add the comment that I'm in no way saying the Public Works or the Water Department is not doing a great job. I feel that they constantly do more with much, much, much less. And so as part of my trend with my grant girl and putting attention to reports that go unread and monies don't get allocated, this is just the next one where I'd like to see them get money to be able to do their job even better, because I know the constraints that they're under. So no way am I saying you guys are terrible. You're amazing, and I want to help you do better. So thank you.
And I didn't want to imply that. I didn't.
And I reiterate, I made the motion.
Okay. That's.
May I make one comment?
Yes, Bill.
The majority of drinking water issues in terms of taste and color come from the customer's pipes, not the water system. So when you get somebody making a comment, we're all pulling the water out of the same aquifer. And while we have had some issues where some PFAS is showing up at different locations, going back a number of years where you can find those comments, they don't hold water because generally the problem's with your pipes. Just FYI.
Thank you. Can we go call for a vote?
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Thank you, Bill. Next items for public hearing.
The next item is adoption of a resolution amending certain user fees for cost recovery. And Patricia Song is here to give the report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. The item before you tonight is a resolution amending several user fees in the categories of water services and park picnic shelter rental. User fees are established and charged for voluntarily purchased municipal services that benefit specific individuals, rather than the general public. As you know, the majority of city services are funded by tax revenues contributed by our taxpayers. These services are considered general governmental services, including public safety, community services, public works, and so on. The services subject to user fees are very different from the general public services, since they benefit only a specific group or groups of people. The cost of providing these services should not be burdened by the general taxpayer, but only those who benefit from the service. Therefore, sound financial management principles encourage the full recovery of the cost for providing these specific services. State law authorizes the city to adopt and implement user fees up to the estimated reasonable costs to provide those services. In 1994, the City Council adopted a master fee schedule and combined all previously approved fees and charges for various city services. Periodically, the schedule has been reviewed and updated to achieve best cost recovery. The most recent user fee update was done in June 2019. The updates recommended for tonight are fees related to the installation of water service line and rental of picnic pavilion at Garden Grove Park and rental of small picnic shelters. Fees for installation of water service line was last updated in June of 2009. 13 years have passed and the cost of material and labor have gone up significantly. The original fee did not distinguish the difference in material use, but only based on the meter size. Additionally, equipment rental and street repair costs were not factored into the existing fee. These factors result in significant undercharge of water service installation and place the burden on the ratepayers. Overall, staff from Public Works has carefully calculated the actual cost for providing these services and proposed to revise the fees to match the actual costs. In regards to the picnic pavilion and small picnic shelters, The city in recent years has made much improvements to the various shelters throughout the city parks. Yet our rental fees have not been adjusted since 2018. The newly proposed rates help to recover the cost for maintaining, administering the picnic shelter rental activities. Also, they are very comparable to our neighboring cities with similar sized shelters. All of the proposed fees are listed on the Schedule A attached to the resolution. The schedule was made available for public view at the clerk's office. The notice of public hearing was published on June 29, 2022, and again on July 6, 2022. Upon the completion of public hearing, staff recommends the City Council to adopt the resolution amending the user fees listed on Schedule A attached to the resolution. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is overdue. Just to show, the taxpayers are really eating up a lot of these costs that really should be paid by the developers on some of these projects. And I'll just highlight one. The current user fee for a 2-inch water service, 2-inch meter, $4,261. So developer doing this project, that's the fee. However, it's actually costing $11,049 to do it. So that means every time something like this happens, our taxpayers are on the hook for $7,000. So I think this is about time. The developers should pay the expenses for their development. We shouldn't be subsidized by the taxpayers. So I'm all in support of this.
Councilmember One.
I noticed that the proposed fees compared to the total cost is less on some items by a couple dollars, by a couple cents, depending on which item it is, and I'm just curious why we're not charging the full exact amount.
It's just rounding for easier programming and easier payments.
Why wouldn't we round up?
Well, we don't want to challenge state law because it has to be within the actual cost. We want to take on the conservative side of it.
Yeah, if we charge more than what it costs, then it's considered a tax, and then all sorts of constitutional limitations.
There isn't a threshold though, like obviously we're not trying to turn a profit, but if it's 10 cents, 45 cents, $1, $5.
You'll be amazed how many people would be willing to file a lawsuit.
Sure, just wanted that
and
clarification.
It'll cost us more than 10
okay.
cents.
Fair enough. I just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Kaufenstein.
Thank you. This might be a little bit off topic. It's not necessarily about the fees, but it's about what else is included while you're renting out that potential structure. So for instance, how does that work? You decide that you're a resident of Garden Grove and you're going to use it the full 8 hours. That's a long time. Does somebody come out and provide access to a restroom? I know sometimes our restrooms aren't always open, just due to some of the issues with people vandalizing them and so forth. So can you kind of walk me through what that would look like and what sort of amenities they get throughout the day if they're renting that for, say, an 8-hour period?
Yes, Councilmember Klopfenstein. So if you do rent a picnic shelter or the picnic pavilion over at Garden Grove Park, part of your rental is the use of the restrooms. So generally, if it's an 8-hour use of the restrooms, what we try to do is depending on the staff availability, we will have a window of time where we tell the user that the restrooms will be open. So they won't necessarily be open the full 8 hours, but we do give them plenty of warning whenever they rent the facility that, the restrooms, for example, let's just say someone rents it from, 10 to 6 or so, that, we would open it at 10 o'clock in the morning and possibly close it down by 5 p.m., depending on how, it's generally our park rangers that are out there opening and closing, and there's, generally maybe one, if not two, that have to cover the whole entire city, so they have to go from park to park to park. So we give them a basic range, but all the users are definitely given a warning as far as how much time the restrooms will be open.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bui.
Yes. Can you, I have two questions. It may relate to you too.
All right, sure.
So for those people who use a park but not necessarily rent the pavilion, the picnic area, like some people in the past, I understand they use some of the area for playing softball
Sports,
and other
yeah.
things. Do they have access to the restroom, or they are not?
It depends on the park. Generally, right now, I think Garden Grove Park has some restrooms that are open next to the gymnasium, But the other restrooms are maintained closed unless there is an actual rental.
So how do people who use certain park have access to restroom?
Well, right now, the Public Works Department has determined that due to the high vandalism that we're having at the parks, that we are kind of going to maintain them closed until, there's some levels of staffing that can be maintained in order to keep up with the vandalism at the parks.
I see. Can you look into, or maybe having officer look into the prospect of, if someone happened to be at the park and they just have to go, or I don't know if they will just go into the booth or anything. Do we see that happen? And if that become widespread, how do we deal with it?
See, maybe Director Murray can answer those questions if he's available. But I know generally there's some parks that do have the porta potties out there, so they can use the porta potties. When those get vandalized, it's a lot more quicker and faster to fix than the actual restrooms when the park restrooms get vandalized.
Okay, because I remember there's one time I was at the park in West Garden Grove, and the portable toilet was locked. I have to rush to run very quickly to my car and have to rush to another business to use it. And I think that's very, very sad for the people who use the park. I think we need to do a better job for that. And I understand the concern that we don't have people or staff at every single park. And so if it gets vandalized, then it costs the city a lot more money. But I think the solution where we lock the restroom isn't a good solution for the people who use the park. I hope to be able to come up with a better solution someday.
Councilman, if I can just add, you're exactly right. Sometimes the facilities, if there is some vandalism, they have to close them for repairs and make those sort of adjustments. We'll put out portalets from time to time, and we try and get a handle working with police and the park police about where the source of some of the vandalism is coming from. And I know Public Works is also looking at some innovative things of trying to use electronic locks to open and close restrooms that might give us a little more flexibility in working with the neighborhood. So, we try and see how it's going, and then a problem comes up, and then we have to deal with it, and then we try to get the restrooms back open. But your comments are well made.
Yes. Just look into it. I think that would help our residents a great deal. If and I do understand, if we do not have staff to, man those facilities, and if we get vandalized, then it costs the city a lot more. But locking it is not a long-term solution. So I hope that we come up with some better solution to address it in the future.
I think
Bill?
I just wanted to mention that in the rental for those gazebos, we are going to be including tap water.
Including what?
And in addition to that, the park restrooms have been an issue ever since homeless has really started to become an issue. On the west ends, we've been keeping them locked up. We've had issues regarding vandalism by kids, and every time if the restrooms aren't locked, you're looking at a few $1,000s worth of damage. So in terms of the fees that they're getting for the gazebos, it in no way, shape, or form pays for the amount of effort that needs to go into protecting these. It is my hope, looking at the city as a whole, that the work that all of you are doing for the Center for the Homeless, I forget the correct term for that, the Navigation Center, will then provide the ability for us to start moving some of these problems away. We would love to open the restrooms, but when the cost going through an entire weekend is so very, very expensive. I mean, there's sometimes where they will take clothes and force it into the toilet And they will go down into the drain, and we have to get a backhoe to dig this out of the sewer lateral, which is an insane amount of work that has to go on before we can get that restroom back open again. And that happens time and time again. And so we post notices on the restrooms and saying that, you know, if this vandalism keeps up, that we're going to shut it down. Our staff is actively communicating that with the homeless in the area in some cases, if that's where the issue lies, and doing our best. And we've been on a rotation program. We'll open them up, see how it's doing, monitor the restroom, and see if we can keep it open for longer. And if it becomes vandalized, then we have to shut it back down again. So it's been a constant plague, so to speak, that our parks staff is trying to deal with, because we really want to provide that service, but it's just the circumstances and the fiscal impact where we can't.
Okay, just try to see what else we can do. I know it's a difficult issue to solve, but please look into it.
Do the best we can.
Okay. Second thing that I have in my mind is I understand that we need to recuperate the cost for the city in providing certain services, and so that's the purpose of the service fee. But I'm always concerned about raising a certain cost to people who need the services. I look at this public water service fee. It's jumping from $2,600 to $8,700. That's almost 3 times the current fee, and some of the other is about double the fee. So why? I have been always proponent of increasing the fee gradually every year, each year with a smaller amount, as opposed to double or triple it. If I have a house and I rent it out, or if I'm renting a house from someone, and the landlord asks me to, Mr. Bowie, unfortunately because of this and because of that, your rent will now be triple or double or triple, it would be a dramatic consequence that would be on me, and fairly the landlord need to recuperate the cost or making profit as well. But if they raise it by 2 times or 3 times, that's really a major burden on them. Now, fortunately, these are new construction, so the impact to everyone in the city isn't being hit by it, but just by some people that need to build a new home. But even then, raising it by triple in one shot, why can't we just phase it out in phases? Like, for example, this year we increase it by 40%, next year another 40%, next year another 40%. Instead of waiting 10 years, then suddenly we raise it by 3 times. Is that something that we can explore?
You could explore that. The issue is we're trying to recoup the costs as our staff, as it costs us to provide those services. So as Councilman Brightingham said, we can do that over 3 years, but then the regular ratepayers are going to pay the difference to do that work. And so a user fee is designed to be a cost to that specific person that's going to benefit from those services. And so you don't charge all the ratepayers for that work.
If we have to do it now, for the future, can we anticipate this and raise it gradually every year instead of waiting? What we had to see is we increase it this time, and then for 5 years we don't touch it, and then year number 6 we give it another hefty raise again. Instead of doing that, why don't we bring it up every year and adjust it accordingly, so that people don't get hit by a sudden increase in fee?
Well, again, that goes back to the actual cost. Right now, we are teeing up the fee to the actual cost, and that is the actual cost as of today, labor, material, and all the anticipated equipment rental fee. We cannot factor into the future cost increases. So typically, we try to achieve the full cost recovery. Every so often, until the cost goes significantly higher than what the actual cost is, we do another fee adjustment. And it's also based on the level of activities.
Understood. This is a cost recovery things. But what I meant is we do that every years, right? So every year the cost may going up. So we do an adjustment every year instead of waiting 5 years and then suddenly we need to catch up.
Not necessarily we do it on an annual basis because there's a cost of implementing a new fee, both programming-wise, administratively, as well as, all the other costs like involving all of you tonight. So we try to do it not on an annual basis unless there's significant cost increase, and also because of the activity level changes from time to time. Like for the recent year, this current year, we had almost doubled activity from the previous year, and we want to be able to catch that wave instead of, not being able to recover more costs to put more burden on the, overall ratepayer. So that is why we time the timing of the fee adjustment.
I see. And then this will go, if we approve this today, it will go into effect immediately or 1 month from now?
60 days, right?
60 days.
Okay.
I think we can open the public hearing first, and if after that, we can go back to more discussion.
I'm
How's
just
that?
asking question, not discussing it. Asking question. Okay. All right, no more question for me.
So let's open the public hearings, and then we can go back and more discussions. Is there anyone from audience who would like to come up and address the ideas or issues, concern? No? Okay, we officially close the public hearing. Let's go back to discussion. George?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I kind of see where Councilman Bowie is coming from here. Wouldn't it be, and this is a question of staff, wouldn't it be wiser just to, by resolution, say we're always going to just recover the cost, and then you guys every 2 years do a cost recovery analysis, and just that way it doesn't have to keep coming to the council. You just do one resolution, blanket saying, we're going to, whatever the cost is, that's what we're going to charge. And I mean, and then just have it be, for the rest of time. I mean,
so really quickly, that is possible for certain services like the park fees, but it's not possible for development impact fees, which state law requires a public hearing and a resolution every time, and they're not effective until 60 days after. And that 60 days is really a challenge period. We have to follow state law, and that's what we're doing today.
Okay. Well, I tried fat.
Okay. No, what I meant is I think the cost recovery is important, right? And I'm going to vote yes on this. But my concern is why do we do it? I don't know. I don't remember the last time that we visit this. And I would like to do it more often. If it is not possible to do it every year, like Patricia mentioned earlier, then maybe do it every 2 years or 3 years. Don't wait too long, and then suddenly the developers see a huge jump, 3 times increase in the cost. And obviously, we can tell them that, look, we just don't make money on this. The reason we have to increase it 3 times is because it costs so much nowadays, and the city have to recur the cost instead of the taxpayer. So I understand the reason, but I just want to see if we can do it more often so that we don't see it jump 3 times the previous fee.
And Council.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say, Councilman Bowie, I understand your comments exactly, and I think as staff we can go back and talk about making sure we get on more of a regular schedule every 2 years or whatever, thinking about some of the issues that the finance director talked about. We don't like to bring fee increases to council very often, but at the same time, we do want to keep up with things. So we'll go back and talk and internally think about what's a regular schedule that would work. So I think your points are well made.
Right. That would be very helpful because I remember we talked about increasing the city council benefit and pay because we haven't done that for 20 plus years. But we'd rather do that more often rather than a certain big increase. Nobody want to increase the fee, but it's better to do it more often and at a lesser rate than doing a big increase 3 times like this one.
I think Councilmember Nguyen want to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, also you can't predict when there's gonna be a jump in costs for material and labor like the way that it was this year with a lot of the shipping delays. So that's something that you can't factor until it happens, right? And we're not gonna make an adjustment for $10 or $5 clearly per my question. So I think that sometimes it ends up being multiple years when there's a significant jump that warrants that. And I don't think that this jump was as a result of waiting 5 years. I think it was also had a lot to do with this previous year where things rose at astronomical levels. But with that being said, I'd move to approve this item.
I do have one question.
Yeah, but I don't agree. I don't think. Of course, nobody can expect or estimate or forecast.
You don't have to agree or disagree. I was giving my opinion. Can we move on? You've already spoken for multiple
I have
minutes.
the right to express my opinion too.
You already did, and I was countering
if I still
my
need
opinion
more
to it.
talk, please don't shut me down. Don't shut me up, okay?
Can we call for order, please? Thank you.
Okay, I have the right to express my feeling after other council members express their opinions. I do not agree that because certainly the cost of labor increased by 3 times. Understand that in the last couple years, inflation have rose by 8 or 9%, and there are many other costs of increase. But increase it by 3 times, 300%, I don't feel it is just because suddenly everything is going up by 3%. I believe it makes more sense to see that it increased gradually. And now we are certainly face a 300% cost recovery. So I think that it's important that staff will look into it and see if whenever there is a large increase, then we need to reflect it. Don't wait until 300% increase in cost and then we react.
Thank you. I think our staff doing very well diligently. My question is, when this cost recovery, how are we looking compared with other cities as of now?
For this item, we don't really compare to the other cities because we all operate differently, but I do believe our public works departments works very efficiently. There's no cost wasting or labor wasting any of these projects. So I don't have a study on comparable cities, but I'm confident that these costs are very legitimate and it's reflecting the true cost of doing this type of work.
Thank you. Anyone else before we?
I'll second it. I know we had a motion, right? I'll second that motion.
Okay, call the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay, we're going to go to the item for considerations.
Item
Madam-
5A is award a contract to Select Electric, Inc. for the construction of project number 02-2022 Main Street Electrical Project. And Mr. Guerrero is here again to give the report.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. The item is to award a contract to Select Electric through the Garden Grove Community Foundation and the city for electrical work on Main Street. The work will address electrical needs and enhancements for Main Street and the Pecor Plaza. The bid process received 4 bid proposals. The attached contract includes the lowest bid along with contingency amount. The project will be funded from the county Small Business Relief Grant Program and from the Economic Development Operation Budget. It is recommended the City Council award the contract and authorize the city manager to execute the contract. That concludes staff's report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. First of all, I'm excited to see these upgrades coming to the street. I think obviously white lights and ways to continue to beautify Main Street will obviously help bring more business to our downtown, and I'm sure the merchants are very excited about this. My only question would come in, and I think we discussed this a little bit, but I wanted to make sure for the residents and so forth. Sometimes we've had issues in the past with vagrants and others damaging electrical boxes and things like that. So just curious to see what kind of fail-safes or insurances are in in this to make sure that these things stay safe and stay working.
I have a question of the attorney. I just wondered if you could give me some advice here. So we have the city is giving a contract to Select Electric, who has a collective bargaining agreement with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, which I am an elected officer of. So so there's no conflict. I might recuse myself. Or what was your recommendation, Dave?
The question is whether this contract would cause you to earn more money.
No.
Yeah, so
Not whatsoever. In fact, we represent over 250 contractors, and we have collective bargaining agreements. So they use the labor force. So I have no direct, nothing would enhance my wages or anything like that.
Okay, then, yeah, if there's no economic interest, then there is no issue.
Because normally we're giving contracts to either a general contractor, or it never even comes into play normally for me, but when it was directly here. So thank you. I feel confident voting for this. No more questions for me.
Just to
Let me go back to mine.
Yeah, Councilmember Klopfenstein's question.
I guess I was so preoccupied with worrying about whether I could vote on it. Sorry about that.
I can defer to Mr. Guerrero, but I think if anything, it's going to give more security to the lighting system by doing this. It'll underground some of the conduit. It'll secure some of the electrical boxes. Last year during the holidays, some of the lighting didn't work on Main Street because we had a lot of heavy rain. And so if anything, I think it'll stabilize the lighting that we have there. We'll be able to depend on it better and maybe kind of secure and mitigate some of those concerns you have.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
And I would like to make a comment before I vote, if I may. This is in my district, district number 4, and over the past few years, I have seen many improvement to Main Street area. There are more shops coming into the area, and this will be another baby step that helping our downtown business district. I'm very happy to see that it's materialized. Thank you, staff, and for getting the funds to spearhead this project. Special thanks to Lisa Kim, and excited to see when this will be done.
And I'll just comment that, I'm glad to see an IBW represented contractor winning. Thank you.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay, item 5B.
Item 5B is award a contract to Project Finance Advisory Limited for the P3 project feasibility and project management consultant services for the Garden Grove Civic Center project. And Ms. Kim is here to give the report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. The item before you is a recommendation to award a professional services agreement to Project Finance Advisory Limited, or PFAL, to provide feasibility analysis and project management consultant services for Phase 1 work identified in the original RFP. As noted in the staff report, we are building upon the work completed by Dewberry in 2020 and merging the work that is currently underway in the 2022 Civic Center community engagement efforts, in which community feedback is being collected, and we're exploring future ideas for the Civic Center Park. We're exploring modernization of our police public safety facilities and addressing our affordable housing mandates. This has been an extensive RFP process to find a qualified P3 consultant to assist the city team in delivering a multi-phase procurement strategy. The process included support by a selection committee made up of members from the police department, public works, finance, community services, and the community and economic development department. By definition, P3 means public-private partnerships in which alternative methods of project delivery are considered. Within the scope of the RFP, PFAL will be tasked with completing the following items. The initial step is to validate and verify the Dewberry report recommendations and further refine the police building program, along with the Civic Center park amenities and affordable housing options. Then we will conduct a feasibility analysis and identify funding options and financing options to deliver the public safety building facility, the amenities for the Civic Center Park, and the affordable housing options. It is equally important to visualize these options, development of an evaluation matrix to rank the preferred alternative sites for the public safety facility, as well as develop 2 massing illustrations. PFAS will also develop an estimation of the project lifecycle costs and project delivery strategy. At the completion of this phase 1 work, the City Council will be presented with alternatives to advance the public safety facility project, either under a traditional path, which is a traditional public works capital project, or via a P3 approach, which includes alternate project delivery and financing options, or a combined hybrid of both. This concludes my staff report, and I'm available for any questions council may have.
Colleagues, any question?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, George.
Yeah, question. So this is gonna, $181,000 basically specific to finance advice on this project, but just finance advice, correct?
So it's one of those aspects. So right now, the Dewberry report originally identified a rebuild and modernization of the public safety building at its current location. We have potentially an alternate site on Civic Center Park to potentially construct and develop the new public safety building. So part of the work is to identify what is the most and best site alternative for the public safety building first. So we have to identify a preferred location. The next step is, if it is ultimately decided that it is on Civic Center Park, then we have to reprogram the public amenities and redesign the Civic Center Park, and where will that be? So part of that comes with costs, and we have to identify those alternatives as well.
So this company would also provide advice on that?
On that. So it's a comprehensive Civic Center, I wouldn't call it a master plan, but provide information for each of those aspects.
So for $181,000, it's as needed. Is that the max, or is it possible we're not going to use all $181,000 worth of advice?
We are going to use all $181,000
Okay, so we're going to use them. They're going to give us all kinds of advice.
All kinds of advice, and this is step one. You need to know how much this project's going to cost, what the impacts would be, what other needs of the community are envisioned in the Civic Center area. And because it's adjacent to the Acacia Adult Daycare Center, that is owned by the Housing Authority, and we have state mandates to deliver affordable housing on that site. So all of these stuff happening in the Civic Center area has to be integrated. And so step one is finding a consultant to assist us in delivering that project. And so PFAL is our recommendation.
Councilmember Kovenstein.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, the scope of work is massive, and I've said before, as this continues to roll out, it's a historic project for the city. And for our downtown, it's going to reshape that entire area. And when we were having the community engagement meetings that have happened prior to this, and looking at those different kind of maps and layouts and renderings of our Civic Center Park and everything, it really speaks to why this is so important, and figuring out where that facility has to lie, whether it's parking, just the whole shape and design of that, then we'll kind of structure everything else around it. So I know that as we move forward, it's crucial for the community to be engaged and to attend these meetings, whether virtually or whether we have them in person, to really see things and kind of be able to touch the project and better understand the overall layout of this and why certain key components are so important. So I think it's good that we're going through this and organizing this process early on. So thank you. And I'll make a motion.
I second it. I think this is very important because for many, many years now, we are talking about downtown business district, which include the Main Street area in my district. So I think it is very important that we go through a feasibility study to make sure that we do it right. Especially while going to, in the next few years, we're going to build the police headquarters. So I think all of this is very important for us to plan it correctly. I remember of a city close by. They built a police department about a dozen years ago, spending $50 million and become a waste because they didn't do the planning correctly. I do not want us to, repeat that mistake, and I think it's very important for us to plan it well and not overbuild and not underbuild as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay, we move on to item 5C.
Item 5C is approval of a commercial purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions with KJ Investments Group LLC for property located at 11277 Garden Grove Boulevard. And Ms. Kim will give the report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is consideration of a commercial purchase agreement with KJ Investments Group for acquisition of 11277 Garden Grove Boulevard. As council may recall, an interim lease agreement was approved in May to lease approximately 15,250 square feet of the building to accommodate additional workspace needed for the Police Department Special Resources Unit and the Community Liaison Unit. Through an expression of interest, KJ Investment inquired if the city would be interested in advancing its option to purchase pursuant to the approved lease agreement. The property is improved with a 2-story office building containing approximately 30,835 square feet. The building was originally constructed in 1980 and has approximately 146 surface parking spaces. The lot is approximately 1.85 acres. After initial assessment, the property acquisition would offer strategic planning benefits for the future and modernization of the Garden Grove Police Department. The property location is within the Civic Center area and is ideal to serve as interim Garden Grove Police Building during future construction or potentially become an alternative site for the new Garden Grove Police Public Safety Facility. Under the terms of the commercial purchase agreement, the negotiated purchase price is approximately $7,999,000, and it was within the fair market appraised value. KJ Investment has also requested an accelerated escrow closing, and we will accommodate following council consideration and approval. This concludes my staff report, and I'm available for questions.
Yes, Councilmember Kalfenstein.
Ooh, District 5 is busy tonight. Obviously, here in the city of Garden Grove, we always welcome businesses and different organizations, and then every so often you get a rotten apple, and sometimes things move on, and you're really happy about that. And then we get to acquire said properties, and we get to turn over that property and use it for some really creative space and help out our police department and so forth. The end, and we all lived happily ever after, and I make a motion.
I do have one quick question.
Yes, George.
Being that the possible intended use for this property, can Measure O funds be utilized in the purchase of this? Or is that just,
As council members will remember, when we approved the continuation budget a couple weeks ago, we approved money as part of our second-year budget to cover the cost of this. Obviously, Measure O funds going forward will help us in our long-term financial plan to help build the new facility, retire the debt over any number of years. So indirectly, yes, it will going forward, because as we promised the community, a good portion of those Measure O funds are going to public safety improvements. So you're correct.
question answered?
Yes, Councilmember Bui.
This is a building that we used to lease in the long past. We lease it, and then we use some of the area in that building. And then after we have no more use for it, I think we give it to the LULAC Association.
Back was in there.
And then after that, our lease ended, and so they have to move out, and then we moved we moved to a different building. So the question for me is, if we buy this property now and put it to good use, for example, to temporarily house the police officer during the construction period, so this is very important. But what happened when we finish the police building, the new building? We no longer need to use, and then what do we do with the building? Can we give some it to some non-profit association?
Yeah, well,
with really inexpensive rent? Just kidding. I'm just want to ask you, what happened after we finish it? We put it on the market, or we still own it and lease it?
Well, we will still own the building. First of all, we'll decide where is going to be the long-term home of the new police building that we're building. So without having made that decision yet, it certainly gives us flexibility, and it also gives the police department immediate relief from the kind of the crowded situations that we've all heard the police chief talk about. So it gives their department immediate relief. They're moving operations up into the second floor. If we take this action tonight, there is one tenant in the opposite corner of the building that would continue to pay their rent to the city. And we've also talked about some other uses in the short term to have people occupied in there. A group like Be Well OC, our mobile mental health folks, could be in there to help it occupied. We also have leases coming due in the taller building to the west of the Purcell building. We have our GGTV Cable 3 folks there. We have our Housing Authority folks that are over there, and their leases are going to come due in the next 2 or 3 years. So it could be a future home for those organizations as well.
So we could consolidate to save the cost.
And we
by
save
then.
those lease payments for those organizations.
Okay. That's good.
Okay, call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Yes, last item for the considerations, 5D.
Item 5D is introduction and first reading of an ordinance reauthorizing the public educational and governmental fee on state video franchisees as operating within the City of Garden Grove, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove reauthorizing the public educational and governmental fee on state video franchisees operating within the City of Garden Grove. And the City Attorney Sandoval will give the report.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, before you is an ordinance that reauthorizes the 1% PEG fee that is allowed under state law. Back in 2006, the state adopted legislation that took us out of the business of regulating and franchising cable television. However, there was a grandfathering provision where the incumbent cable television provider, in our case, Time Warner, was allowed to continue to operate under a franchise until it expired. They also have the option to opt out of the franchise and then opt into the state licensing system. But because the PEG fees under our franchise were much lower than the state franchise, they opted to stay in their current cable TV franchise, which is expiring in August, which is pretty much next month is expiring. In 2008, pursuant to the state law, the city adopted regulations that would apply to cable operators that had a state franchise. That section of the code was never implemented because obviously our franchisee continued with the city franchise. Now that the city franchise is expiring, we are not allowed to extend it or issue a new franchise. Now Time Warner, they consolidated with Charter and now they're called Spectrum. They're going to, after August 21st, start operating under the state franchise. We now need to comply with state law. State law has a provision that says that we have to reauthorize the PEG fee for it to be applicable. So what this ordinance does, it does two things. Number one, it reauthorizes the PEG fee according to the ordinance that we have already adopted back in 2008. And it also amends our ordinance and municipal code to add a provision that stipulates that the reauthorization is automatic every time a new franchisee comes into operation or a new franchise is issued by, a new franchise is issued by the state or renewed by the state. So that we don't have to be adopting a new franchise every time we have, a new ordinance every time we have a new state franchisee renew their license to operate in the city of Garden Grove. So that's the ordinance that's before you. It's probably shorter than the staff report. But I wanted to make sure that you understood what we were trying to do with this. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Move to approve.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay, so we're going to matters. 6A. Councilmember Nguyen.
We need to read it, or can I just start?
Item 6A is a discussion regarding establishing a Garden Grove Film Incentive Program in partnership with the Garden Grove Chamber of Commerce and Garden Grove Tourism Improvement District as requested by Councilmember Kim Nguyen.
All right, Lisa. Yet another wonderful idea like Foods of Garden Grove, which you all should subscribe to and follow on social media. So most of you know I serve on the California Film Commission, and as a result of that, I've been able to participate in a number of meetings and learn about their tax incentive program the state of California has, and also recently was able to visit a film site in Orange County that took place at the Santa Ana train station for the Mysterious Benedict Society, which was a Disney Plus show for younger children that I have not seen, but I hear amazing reviews. And one of the things that I had been able to chat with some of the folks that were on site, some of the labor folks and employees, was how difficult it is to film in Garden Grove. There's a 30-mile radius set for the epicenter of LA where filming is much less. The cost of filming is much less, and to travel outside of that radius, the cost increases significantly. And I recently became aware of a pilot show that will be airing on ABC, or Freeform, sorry, it's no longer ABC Family, but Freeform, that centers around a narrative of 3 young Vietnamese Asian women in Orange County specifically. And I got into contact through what is the wonderful web and friends connected to friends with the pilot producer, who shared with me that only a few segments of the pilot show will actually be filmed at the Asian Garden Mall or Phillips Hall. Because it was really costly to film in Orange County, but because it's based in Little Saigon, Orange County, they obviously had to get some B-roll and some shots here for it to play out, because that's the show. They're hoping that the show will get picked up and that there will be full-on seasons and more episodes to come. And one of the main things was, again, it is really difficult and expensive to film in Orange County. And so I checked in with the California Film Commission to see, what can be done. I was asking if there could be exceptions to that 30-mile radius for cultural appropriateness and sensitivity, and but that unfortunately is not the case. And so one of the suggestions was to work within the bounds of the city to create a city incentive program where we would work with our tourism district, our Chamber of Commerce, to find ways to promote filming in Garden Grove, right? This would feature probably high schools, neighborhoods, but it would take some level of staff looking into what areas would be easy to close down for filming for a short period of time, what hotels were willing to be participants in this program, what restaurants would cater, because it's not just lodging for all of the employees, it's also providing them with meals, which is why people don't exceed that radius. But we've all seen, well, maybe not all of you, but I for sure have been watching some shows on Netflix that are centered around Vietnamese American voices. One of them is definitely a guilty pleasure, so I won't say it by name, but it is centered around Vietnamese Americans. And they do travel to Orange County for very 2 to 3 seconds of B-roll, and it's really not highlighting the lively culture that is here. And so I would really like to have this in place, where we'd have a designated area on our website to highlight what we have to offer, all of our different, temples, our restaurants, areas that connect to other cities, and really allow to filter in this type of demographic and incentivize and kind of bring in this talent. There's no such program anywhere in Orange County. I don't know that any other city program exists in California, but we could be definitely leading the way, and we definitely have something very unique to offer here in the city. And so I would really like to see this agendized with maybe a plan in a few months. I know staff is really busy. Half a year, Lisa, I'm sorry. Just to get the ball rolling on this, because if this show in particular is picked up, I'm imagining they're going to want to film soon. May or may not actually get picked up, but there are more and more stories being told of the AAPI experience, and it's either going to happen in San Jose here if other cities pick up this type of work and create incentives for people to film. So I'd rather it come here.
I would like to motion, but before the question says, incentivized program, is it going to be, maybe that's staff later on going to do some homework, but in terms of monetaries, is it going to be affecting our budgets, general fund overall?
I'm not sure, but I would be thinking of partnering with our tourism district and our Chamber of Commerce for it to be like discounted rates, block rates of hotels. Like when we go to conferences for the league, you know, there's like the first 200 people on the block that they've reserved for the league, it's at a discounted rate. So I would be looking for something similar to happen here for folks who are here for filming.
Councilmember Bui.
Yes. I talked to, I have quite a few friends who produce and direct movie, Vietnamese American movie, making those movies here in the USA. One of them just did a recent, movie filming on near Bucha and Bonsa in Garden Grove city side. And one thing I find out is they lack the knowledge of permitting process. So after explain to them what need to be done, we were able to help them moving forward. But actually, other than that, I think what they need from the city would be, help them with the permitting so that they can close down or partially close down the streets. As far as incentive, I don't think those people that I talk to, they don't really looking into that because they are very much in a budgetary type of movie making. For the more mainstream movie, like Hollywood style movie, I don't think Garden Grove would be something that is on their radar. And for those movies, they are making a movie about, I don't know if you remember Mr. Ma, the taxi driver that was kidnapped by a few convict escapees from the prison that took him all the way to San Francisco. He is a Garden Grove resident. And so that's why they are making those movies about that story. And that's why they film it in Garden Grove. They are very budget oriented. Usually they look for a small home where they can rent so that they can have their crew situated. So I don't understand what do we mean when they say the cost doing the movie in Garden Grove is a lot higher than in other cities. That would be something I think we might want to look into it to understand what the cost is that they face that would prohibit them from filming in Garden Grove or in Orange County comparing to other part of the Southern California.
So for productions that are being held in California, there are various levels of rules that tie to union labor, and so they have to abide by those rules. And there is a rule around a 30-mile radius from the area in which is allocated in Los Angeles, California. And so exceeding that, you have to provide lodging and meals to all of the crew, whether that's the actors, whether that's the film production, camera, lighting, all of them. And so that's where the cost goes really high. So they only will come out to certain sites to film very short, small portions for a few days or just a day, a few hours, and then they go back to Los Angeles and film in where you make believe and green screen things. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the incentive program, because I'm hearing more and more stories being centered around Orange County and Little Saigon, and I want that filming to happen here because then that's more money in our pockets, it's more visibility for us, more people are seeing us on screen, and so I think it's a great opportunity to look into and what that would look like. We also have had movies like Star Trek that were filmed in Garden Grove in Christ Cathedral. So we do have a lot of different appeal. I mean, Star Trek of all things is not religious, but they use that center building there as part of like I don't remember exactly what it was. I don't know that it was a spaceship, but my point being is you never know what's going to happen. And so I'd rather be ahead and proactive and create this really cool platform that would include streamlining permitting process, give them how Lisa does many of her 101s or how to either videos or, one-pagers where it's going to be easily accessible to people. And so I just really want to promote that endeavor and have something dedicated to that.
Madam Mayor
I think
Pro
it's
Tem.
good. Yes, George, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to second this. I don't want to I would not like to see it be limited to only cultural things because as Councilman Nguyen has said, anything can come. You don't know what it is, so I would like it to be open to all filming, not just for cultural reasons or something like that. But I think it's what we're asking for here is basically a study, which is going to take some staff time. There's no way that you're going to know what all the answers are until we get that back. So I think kind of going in the right direction. I would like to see some more filming here. It could possibly open some other opportunities here in the city, and being the first. Yeah, who knows? Maybe you'll become a movie star, huh?
Sorry. Sorry, for clarification, the cultural argument was to see the California Film Commission would lift the 30-mile radius, like make an exception or exclusion to that, but they said no. But also we had the HBO series where one of our dear friends, Tam Nguyen, was featured on. So, I mean, there are a lot of things are happening and we're just missing it. So I really want to jump on it and have something for people to land on and look at all the resources, know what they need for permitting processes, but also incentivize them to do it here, right? Because, like I said, the site that I visited was in Santa Ana, not in Garden Grove.
Well,
So
you have my second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have second. I motion.
Motion received to agendize this on a future action item. 6 yes votes.
Okay, so next item, 6B. That's Scott.
Item 6B is a discussion about advancement of a future navigation center as requested by City Manager Stiles. Ms. Kim does have a PowerPoint to present.
Evening, Honorable Mayor, members of Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. I'm pleased to update the Council on some of the efforts we've been doing relating to the Future Navigation Center. What we have illustrated is the city's website, specifically the End Homelessness or Addressing Homelessness webpage. And so one of the new sections that we've added is relating to the Future Navigation Center. So if you launch onto that tab, it takes you to our Future Navigation Center information portal. And so it provides general information of the city's effort to identify a suitable location for a navigation center in collaboration with the cities of Fountain Valley and Westminster. It identifies what types of services a navigation center typically would provide for. We also have provided a link to the Memorandum of Understanding, in which has been approved by the cities of Fountain Valley and Westminster and Garden Grove. We've also identified, just yesterday, we had a Navigation 101 virtual meeting. It provided a course hosted by Orange County United Way as part of their United to End Homelessness initiative. We had a conversation with HomeAid that really just talks about operation, what is a navigation center, what types of services are provided, and how do we navigate these individuals at risk of homelessness into housing. So this is just an update on some community engagement efforts that continue since our last conversation. Also, specific to our prospective navigation center sites, as all of you may be aware, our real estate market in our industrial area is in high demand, so there's very low availability of potential sites. Where we're headed right now is we're reaching out to our industrial brokerage community who is very active in our area, and we're looking at off-market properties right now. So in conclusion, we just wanted to just advise the council that there's a future navigation website that is live, and all of the webinars relating to Homelessness 101 and Navigation Center 101 will be posted by the end of the week. And our goal is to potentially bring forward a potential site for council consideration at one of the meetings in August, and this concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Any question? Oops. Okay, is that the action item? Should we vote? No? Okay. Any other matters? Let's go around the dais. Kim?
Just a few really quick. I wanted to address some of the District 6 complaints that I've heard. Obviously, tonight we heard one with the property on Flint, so if we could get an update to allow that to the point that that's allowable, that would be great. I also know that there was neighborhood meetings in that area as a result of a homeless encampment that's off of the 22 freeway. And it's still there. I hadn't seen it until I came the opposite direction of the freeway, and I was able to see it embedded there between the walking bridge that's over the freeway. So if we could get an update on that as well. Follow up on the 99-cent store. There are no more issues with the trash can, thank the Lord. But now there's issues with the delivery service hours that are happening, I think, at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning. And I believe we have an ordinance that doesn't allow for service deliveries, those loud rigs coming in after midnight till like 4 or 5 in the morning.
I think it's 10 p.m.
10 p.m. See, that's even okay. So if we could check with the property and store owner of that to ensure that they're abiding by that ordinance, because I remember it came up with A&A Market on Harbor just before Trask. And the bright lights that we put up to deter homelessness are now beaming straight into the homeowners' houses. So I've heard a couple different complaints about it. So if there's a way to kind of direct them down and not straight out, that would be great. And lastly, I'm hoping that at some point we can agendize an item to discuss parks and specifically restroom uses. This is something that came up via email for the item that we talked about with service fee increases. But I actually wanted to bring it up because I saw new restroom facilities at other cities where rather than having a stall with the washing hand stations inside of the bathroom, they're now doing individual toilet rooms and then hand stations, washing hand stations outside of that to kind of diminish the need for folks to be inside there for too long. So just an item to discuss, how do we get these restrooms open, what other cities are doing. I hear constant complaints from our residents that they go to the parks and can't utilize the restrooms, and I think almost every single colleague of mine brought that up recently during the previous item. So I'd like to see, I mean, we can't just keep it closed forever. So do we need to redirect monies to hire more park rangers, more staff, whatever it is? I think we need to start discussing it because it's been multiple years now where the restrooms have been closed, and I don't think that that's fair to the public.
Thank you. Councilmember Klopfenstein.
Thank you. 2 quick things, one of which I'm going to bring West Haven Park back up in District 5. I want to thank Public Works. We have new turf that's been installed at that park. So we're looking at moving ahead with some of the different projects there. I know it's been a long time coming to the residents, and I want to thank them for their patience. And I think looking at the timeline, maybe this fall, all that maintenance schedule should be completed, and hopefully the park will be able to be used again for families and your dogs and whatever else. So again, thank you to Public Works for continuing their hard work at West Haven. And again, thank you to the residents for their ongoing patience. And then a quick vector update. Normally I would talk about mosquitoes. Knock on wood, it's not so bad here in Garden Grove, but unfortunately we're having an issue with typhus. Typhus is a disease brought on by fleas, sometimes ticks, but here in this more suburban residential area, it's brought on by fleas. Fleas obviously are found on a lot of animals. We have the ability to use flea and tick medicine for our domesticated pets, but all of these squirrels and raccoons and skunks and everything else that we have, possums, everything that we have here that seem to frequent our backyards and open spaces, they do not. And so they can carry fleas that are diseased with typhus, and typhus is not fun. In fact, my mother almost died of typhus. So I've seen it firsthand and know how sick you can get and what can happen. So I highly recommend, please make sure that you're using flea and tick medication on your pets, your dogs, cats, rabbits, any animal that you have, especially if they go outdoors. And just be mindful of wearing repellent and taking care of yourself and your children, especially in these warmer months. Thank you.
District 4, Fat, do you have anything?
Yes, two things. First of all, I would like to report my trip to the ICSC in Las Vegas at the end of May. It was very successful. This is my very first trip as city councilman, and we have seen a lot of developers, even someone from, not just from within the state, but from other states, including those that just came by out of the blue and talked to us they are developers from Seattle, Washington State. Not all of them will materialize, but at least we have a lot of interest in our city development, and I think that's a good sign. And really strong kudos to the redevelopment agency, economic redevelopment team, Lisa and Greg and all the members who work very hard. We starting in the early morning, we man the booth and until like 5, 6 p.m. And it's a long day for us, and it's a fun trip, and I'm really glad that I finally have some exposure to ICSC. And then the second issue regarding to something that really concerned me, and I brought this up at the previous city council, and ever since the governor have finally signed that into law. What it is a Senate Bill 357, which will strike out the law that currently existing law that prohibiting solicitation for prostitution in public right of way. What happened would be, we don't know what will it lead to, but I'm very worried about the prospect that prostitution that we used to see, hookers on the street on Harbor Boulevard some 20 years or 30 years ago, will certainly become a norm now in our tourism areas. And I don't know what we can do. The state law now will tie our police hand. They can no longer come and check them out and ask questions or even arrest them. Can we do something to minimize it? Hopefully there's something that we can. So I would like to agendize for next week to ask the city attorney and staff to look, and the police department to look into what can we do to prevent prostitution from flooding our streets in the near future. I think it's very important because the prospect of this would be we see the return of prostitution, walking the street on Harbor Boulevard, and maybe on any other street.
I'll just comment that, yeah, I'm opposed to having anybody on a city median, standing there that we can't enforce to get them out of it's a public safety hazard for themselves and people when they're allowed to be in the center medium or walking or in certain areas that the police should be able to enforce, The prostitution part of it, I don't know. I've been around long enough to where I saw it on Harbor Boulevard and Catella and Beach Boulevard, and we've come a long way since those days. But I don't see it as a huge problem right now. I'm not sure what we can do to combat that with the current, the current law, but I'm not opposed to looking into it.
Honestly, right now, pretty much it's all gone via the internet now. You don't see that anywhere where there's as much like it used to be in the streets. Now everybody goes to their whatever app it is and, internet to do that. But it seems to me there's other ways around it. The state wants to basically legalize street walking, prostitution. There's still ways to deal with that. Do they have a business license from the city? I think there's still things that they could check. The police would still, but I'm not opposed to exploring it. Let Omar look into it to see if there's anything that we.
I have, yes. Like you mentioned, I chat briefly with our city attorney. It's very difficult for us to go against the state, but that doesn't mean is there any other avenue that we might be able to explore, like a fine or anything. But for the attorney to start seriously looking into it, he needs to spend some hours looking into it. So that's why I would like to agendize it to see if we can authorize him to spend hours in looking into it.
So you're just looking to agendize it for the next meeting?
Correct.
I'll give you a second.
Councilmember Nguyen.
I was just going to suggest that you check with the league. I know that is a topic of concern for some cities, and I don't know if they're going to do letters or whatever, but let's utilize our partnerships with the league and see what they're doing as a whole, or what divisions are doing on their own, if not the whole.
We have a motion and we have second to agendize for next discussion. Let's cover the.
I'm going to add it.
But I want to ditto the Councilmember Nguyen. I think we should partner with the league. I think they are working on that as well.
What we are asking for is just some time for the city attorney to look into the matters and see if there's anything you can do, not just, doing something, right?
Yeah, she's trying.
No, it's
recording.
I just have to put in a title so you guys know what you're voting on. I'm sorry. what was it?
SB 357.
357, perfect. Okay. All right. Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Mayor,
George,
Mayor
your-
Pro Tem,
Yes,
just so
Scott.
I understand for sure, so council's agendizing it for your own discussion at the next meeting. You're not expecting a report
No,
for
we-
staff to work on?
We, at the next meeting, we will decide, we will vote whether we authorize our city attorney and maybe even Chief Daure to spend time looking into the issue.
Got it. Thank you.
Discussion. Okay, let's go. George, your turn. Matters? I go.
Sure.
We're gonna come
All
back,
right.
don't worry.
Yeah,
I go one end to the other.
So, one of the main things I keep just getting inundated with, and it's come up twice today, once when it wasn't even related to it, but the park bathrooms. It's just a constant problem. I just don't get it because, quite frankly, there's some low-hanging fruit, and I've always gone by the mantra, quality through continuous improvement. We can always get better, and the city can always do things a little bit better. There's low-hanging fruit here. Opening and closing bathrooms is not a major undertaking, and it's not something that our citizens should not have to do without bathrooms in their parks. Plain and simple. All right? Eastgate Park in my district has been vandalized majorly, at least 2 times. I believe the 3rd time just recently happened, where they have to close the park down and it takes months for them to get it fixed. Every one of those times, it was vandalized in the wee morning hours because city staff didn't lock it. It wasn't locked, and it got forgotten. It slipped through the cracks. Other cities don't have these problems. Why do we constantly have these problems? It just doesn't make sense to me. We have to take some of the responsibility for this vandalism if we don't lock them at night when the parks close. Low-hanging fruit, building inspections. The report I got showed the longest city wait time for any city in Orange County was 3 days. Why does it take Garden Grove 30 to 60 days to get a building inspection? All right, I've been harping on this for 2 or 3 years. There's always this excuse, that excuse. Okay, we contracted out with these new company that's going to kind of help things. And since we've contracted with this company, the times have gone up. And I'm constantly getting complaints. This is low-hanging fruit. This is stuff that shouldn't exist. No other cities are having these problems. I'm challenging city staff. Let's get this fixed for our community. Let's get this fixed. If it's going to take more money, come to us and say we need more money, and we will collectively get together and decide how much we're going to allocate for this. Okay? But it needs to be done. This is 3 years now of constant nonsense, in my opinion. We need to get it fixed. We had a lady come here, I think this is her 3rd or 4th time, talking about her property line and the easement and how close it is. She was she's still here. Okay. I get that the letter of the law might apply, but there's also a thing called common sense. All right. Her property existed there for years. She shouldn't have 1 foot of property to walk to her front door. That's ridiculous.
George, can I comment on that?
Yeah, and so I'm just saying there's letter of the law, there's spirit of the law. Yeah, I get, okay, you got a 5-foot easement, but you got to look at the previous stuff that happened too. You got to use some common sense and not just go by the letter of the law, okay? And I'll let you get back. Let me finish my thing.
I have some information for you on that issue.
So with that all being said, I'm challenging city staff to do better. There's some things, yeah, I get it. You guys do an outstanding job. You guys overall do good, but there are some low-hanging fruit here that we can fix, and we should be able to fix very easily. Lastly, now that I'm all worked up. Last weekend, unfortunately, I had asked for district funds for everybody on the council to be able to do things in their community and for their community. That got voted down. So I ended up buying all the engravers and safety equipment and all this stuff. I did a catalytic converter engraving event at the Grease Monkey Garage at Chapman and Knott. Outstanding event. I was really overwhelmed with the amount of folks showed up. We had about 120 cars come through there from all over the city. Every district had cars there. So I am just, shout out to Grease Monkey Garage for letting us use their facility. I have all the equipment because I already purchased it with my own funds. So if you guys want to do these in your own district, you can have the equipment. Just find a location that'll let you do it, and you don't have to
we
buy
do
all
it.
that stuff.
Thank you.
And I'm done.
Thank you, George.
I
John?
should have went first. I got to follow that, George. So just to clarify on the woman's issue that spoke here, I've been out there probably 4 or 5 times since December. It's not a foot. It's much more than that. Her property line. I went out there and saw the surveyor's stick, and I can't, challenge an engineered surveyor's point of contact, but the people next door are building on their own property, and they're building a fence, and the fence is all on their property. I know I've lived here for my whole life too, and I've been neighbors to the same people for many, many years. It's very difficult when someone comes in and adds to the house, but I believe they're within their rights. I've talked to city staff, have been out there multiple times. There's been, I believe, at least one surveyor that I'm aware of. Maybe there's another. At this point, the city approved a permit for someone to build something on their property, and it's not a foot. It's 5 feet from her house, which is usually 5 feet from each house to the property line, and then another 5 feet. But I understand the issue, and I've been out there numerous times, and the city has too. So we'll try to still work on that together and see if they can come to it. But it's got to a point where it's actually a private matter between 2 landowners there. Looking forward to the State of the City tomorrow. So all the big players in Garden Grove should be there, to find out what the mayor's going to say about the coming years here. Regarding the bathrooms issue, we're all in the same boat on this. And I don't blame staff or the city. We've collectively had a hard time dealing with this, especially since the riverbed was disbanded and the homeless population kind of took off in Southern California and Orange County and Garden Grove, especially in Anaheim. The vandalism at the restrooms just became so bad that we couldn't afford to keep them open. But I take the responsibility as a council member, and we all do here, to give staff direction. We'll find the budget money. With the navigation center should help improve, like's been said tonight. I think we're getting to a point where we can allocate a budget, and it's up to this city council to make sure that we have our bathrooms open at a certain time, that they're well cleaned, maintained, and opened and closed properly. It's our responsibility to direct staff and tell this and do it. So, and then lastly, happy birthday to Councilwoman Kim Nguyen.
Happy early birthday.
Early birthday, okay. So that's all I got. Thanks.
21 today.
Forever 21. Thank you, John. My turn. First of all, I just want to talk about bathroom the last time. Definitely we can do better because I know that a lot of us went out to the park, and that is necessity. It's a necessity. Okay, it's not accessory. So I think we can do better than that. We have to look for opportunity, but it's also I also want to ask for the public help as well. If you see something, say something, intervention, help us to keep the public restroom clean as well, so that we'll be able to maintain longer. So it's a both way. It's our council responsibility, but it's also we ask for the public to help in that part. So definitely just a promise that we can do better than that. Second, I wanted to say thank you to SRT team. They did an outstanding job at some of the hotspot areas, especially in District 3, behind the 99-cent store. I want to highlight on that. It looked better every day. I know it keeps coming back, but I think the SRT team has been doing an excellent work on keeping the shopping center clean and all the hotspot clean. So we continue to support that. And happy early birthday to Councilmember Kim Nguyen. And that's all I have, so what's next one? City Manager?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, just two quick items. One is I want to remind the public the mayor's State of the City speech is tomorrow. Thank you for bringing that up, Councilman O'Neill. It's at 12 noon at the Hyatt. It's typically sold out, but I wanted to let the public know that we will post after the event is over. We'll post the video and the mayor's speech online, just so people that can't be there can watch it and see it. So we'll do that. Secondly, as our next council meeting is canceled for the summer recess, our next meeting will not be until August 9th. But I do want to remind the public that on Tuesday, August 2nd, from 5 to 8 p.m. in front of the Garden Grove Police Headquarters is our annual National Night Out. So our police department is planning for that. They're getting ready for another event and should be bigger than ever. It's a free community building event to feature family activities, giveaways, live demonstrations, and raffle prizes. Event attendees will be able to meet our Garden Grove police officers, our crime prevention officers, and our two famous police support canines will be there, as well as they'll be able to participate in contests, try on police gear, and everything that goes along with it. Other activities are going to include public safety demonstrations by our canine unit and our special weapons and tactics unit. And so for any details about that, you can visit the city's website at ggcity.org. And again, National Night Out is Tuesday, August 2nd from 5 to 8 p.m. right in front of our police headquarters. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Scott. Omar, and City Attorney.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council. Earlier this evening, we had a few closed session items. The successor agency and the City Council met in closed session on real property negotiations. There is no reportable action out of that one. And the City Council met on anticipated litigation items. And I do have something to report today. In closed session this evening, the City Council authorized the City Attorney to commence receivership proceedings for property located at 12272 Tamerlane Drive. And that is my report today. Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, and our meeting adjourned for next August 9th. Thank you, everybody.